York. Hi, everybody. How's it going? How fucking great is the Running Man, everybody? My name is Josh Horowitz. I guess the podcast called Happy, Sad, Confused. But first and foremost, guys, what an audience. First and foremost, like all of you, I'm an Edger Wright fan. We are here to support this amazing new work. When Edgar Wright meets Stephen King, that's what you just saw. Amazing, right? Thank you for supporting this amazing film. Thank you for packing this beautiful theater in New York and supporting an opening night for the film. And as a treat, as a reward to all of you, I'm going to conjure up out of the ether the great Edgar Wright and have a little chat. Edgar Wright, everybody! Here he is. Hi. That's a draw.
I've actually never been in this theatre before. I understand it's the best IMAX in the States. How was it for you? Well, thanks for coming. How was it for you guys at the front? How was it for you? You're in the movie.
Usually I go at the back.
He's blind now. Congratulations, man. Hell of an achievement. Look, this is a huge undertaking. We were talking before, like, I feel like you got away with something in the best possible way. When you look at this movie, like, what did you get away with? What are you proud of that you like, oh, I actually got that up on the screen. This is something I can pat myself on the back that I was able to put this in a big studio Hollywood entertainment.
I think, I loved the book since I was a teenager, and, if the book is very different from the previous adaptation, so it was something that I had read the book before I saw the 1987 film, so even when I saw that film, I'd already as a teenager visualized this different story, and so I knew that there was another movie in that source material. But I think also in this day and age, I'm old enough to have been watching films in the 80s and 90s where it felt like you got a good sci-fi action movie every 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then so to make one of those movies and it be R-rated and with a studio, it does feel like you're kind of getting away with something. So, but I'm of the age where I saw a lot of those films at the cinema, and so to kind of actually make something on this scale and make a sort of big dystopian sci-fi action film was just a gift. I don't take any of it for granted.
You read this book when you were first, how old, you say?
14, I think.
Perfect age. Broke your brain in the best possible way?
I'm sure how many people started reading Stephen King too young? The thing about Stephen King books is you kind of think that your parents will frown about the horror content, but of course it's everything else. It's like the graphic sex and the adult themes, and and the Running Man book is also one of his rawest. It's really kind of I was 14 when I read it. But the thing is, the things that I sort of even visualize when you read a book then are the things that I wanted to bring to the screen in this. And the sort of key things about the adaptation were, number one, who Ben Richards is, that he's an out-of-work dad and that he goes to the network building by choice. He's not forced to go there. It's desperation because he has to provide for his family, but he's going there by choice. And then the second thing is that the entire film is from his point of view. And that's what the book is like. But other films in this vein, they might do a scene where they cut back to the headquarters. And we would sometimes get notes after me and Michael McCall get notes out from the studio, they'd say, what about if we cut back to Josh Brolin, or what if we go and check in on Sheila and Kathy? And we're like, no, I think you've really got to stay with Ben, because you shouldn't have any information that he doesn't have.
Well, it's unrelenting then. You're stuck in this horrible ride alongside Ben.
Yeah, and also even the show itself, he can see a window into the rest of the world through the show, but it becomes increasingly clear that might be entirely bullshit, And then the third thing was also the actual gameplay itself. The 87 film sort of keeps it contained in a sort of subterranean arena, and like the book, it's 30 days out in the world, so you could, in theory, go anywhere, and it's hide and seek on a national level. But that was also the most ambitious thing about making the movie, was doing all the location work.
It's it's obviously a prescient book. I mean, it's set in 2025, welcome to 2025. Out of curiosity, I looked
Do you know what it says on the cover of the book?
What's your...
So the 1982 first edition paperback, when it was published under Richard Bachman, it says on the cover, "Welcome to America in the year 2025, where the best men don't run for president, they run for their lives." Now, if you put that on the poster today, they'd say it was too on the nose. So we didn't do that. But that is genuinely the cover of the 1982 book.
It is remarkable. Just for shits and giggles today, I looked up like what the most watched TV show is this year. Squid Game.
Yeah.
That's all you need to kind of know. Like we're living in the Running Man, basically.
Well, it was interesting working on the script, like when we were working on the scripts, with the knowledge of like the reality TV of the last 25 years. Because the thing is that, and it's not just like the more physically challenging shows, is that even the dancing and the baking shows kind of have all this terrible dark scandal behind them.
Right.
And I think also people are now very aware of how those shows are put together, and the idea of the villain edit, or just the idea that, I mean, and this is serious, it's like, look, most of those shows, as we know, that there's some kind of dark story attached, and like, if anybody's, you know, like, just before we started filming with Josh and Coleman for all their scenes, which was only January this year, we started filming this film, November 2024. Just before we started filming those scenes, that Jerry Springer documentary came out on Netflix, and it just seemed to confirm absolutely everything that was in the script. And, you know, and so it's just, I think just people now have more of an awareness of like what's going on behind the scenes, you know, like members of the public being made to be a national villain or a national laughingstock, and people aren't equipped to deal with that. And it's one of the things that I really like in the movie is just how nice Killian and Bobby T are to Ben just before he goes on the stage. They're all like, "Hey, you got this, you're gonna do great." And then as soon as he goes out, boom!
Another thing I love is, you know, we've seen so many different takes on dystopian futures. This shares more, I feel like, it's more Terry Gilliam Brazil than it is, you know, Ridley Scott Blade Runner. How did you approach how you wanted to kind of depict this world? Because there are a lot of different ways to go, obviously.
Well, actually, yeah. There's something in the Terry Gilliam's Brazil that I really love, and that's like an 80s dystopian fantasy, but it has 1940s styling. So I guess the idea with that is that 1984, the book, was written in 1948, so it has the stylings of that time. In a similar way, we thought, well, why don't we do, if the book was published in 1982, it was actually written in 1973, and unpublished for 9 years, released in 1982, what if we did the 1982 version of 2025? And actually, when we were first working on it, if you've read the book, the things like the tapes and the envelopes and the post boxes, it's all in there. And your first thought is like, well, you have to update all this stuff. But the truth of the matter is, as I'm sure you're aware, that smartphones in cinema are terribly boring. And there's no way to make smartphones interesting. So we just thought, well, fuck it, let's just do a retro-futuristic thing. Keep all the analog stuff. Basically, the uptown stuff is all sophisticated and shiny, and everything's working, and downtown, everything's gone to shit. And also there's that kind of exoticism about analog technology now, but not just vinyl, but, you know, people wax lyrical about VHSs and audio cassettes, and so we just thought we'd keep all of that stuff. And it was funny, like, shooting it, like, on set, everybody was totally obsessed with the running cam, which is that, you know, it's cool, but it's kind of clunky, clamshell,
Right.
which is something that looks like it would have been outmoded in 1991, but it's cool to play around with. Everybody wanted to fiddle around with it. So that was definitely the idea. It's like, let's go this kind of retro futuristic thing. And also, do you know what cassette futurism is?
No, tell me.
It's like this kind of idea of the utopian design of 80s and 90s video cassettes and audio cassettes. They've all got the kind of like the rainbow stripes, and it all looks like it's suggesting like a better future. So there's a lot of that in it as well, the designs on the cars and on the buildings.
We all just want to look at the best version of 1980, 85, or 87,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to 2025. There's so many like amazing action sequences in this, set pieces in this. talk to me a little bit, is Glenn seems like he's all in on everything. He's a devoted, loves the stunts, loves all of it. When you propose like that escape, climbing off the side of the building, basically wearing nothing, he's in from the start. Can you talk to me a little bit how that sequence was created?
Yeah, I mean, when we designed that, we didn't know it was going to be -10 in Bulgaria when it was that. So I have to apologize to Glenn for that. So he was up on that building, taking the towel off every take, sort of in very frigid temperatures. I mean, it was, those sequences, like, as well as the location filming, I mean, I'm sure as some of you in the audience are aware of, just there's so many moving parts in those sequences, and that sequence in particular had so many parts to it, because the character is moving through so many different environments. Like, he's going down the hallway, then he's in the bathroom, then he's on the roof, then he's outside the building, then he's back in his room, then he's into somebody else's room, he's in the elevator, then he's like in the basement, then he's in the sewer. It's just like, and obviously when it all comes together, it's great, but it's so much work and planning at every stage, and Glenn wanted to do as much stunts as possible, and so you then have to design the shots around that about what he can do. And I mean, but he's great. He's so up for anything and just wants to do it all. But it's incredibly complicated, a lot of moving parts, and rats on fire.
Just throw that in there too.
I actually, after the first preview, you have these test previews and they say, what did you like best? And you have 3 things, and people are like, rats on fire. And I said to Josh, we need more rats on fire. Let's have at least 2 more rats on fire. They're not real rats, guys, don't mind. They're okay. There's one rat that you see that's swimming and it puts itself out. Yeah, so there's that rat and it does the smart thing and it puts itself out. There's a reason the PETA thing is on the end. It's not real rats. I will say this, I tell you what. The shot where it goes from floor 2 to floor 3, there's that shot where it goes between the floors. They were real rats. And I found out that our grip was terrified of rats because he was like nowhere near that shot. And the way that you do that shot is that they kind of run through shot, is that they had a box with the rats on one side, and then on the other side some food, and then when the camera comes up, they release them and they run towards the food. And the rat handler, who was he said the creepiest thing to me. I said, there were 5 rats, and I said, what are the rats' names? And he goes, whatever you want them. No, that's not the answer I wanted.
Way more rat content than you guys were expecting tonight, right? Let's reward them. They've seen the film, they're going to see the film again. Give them 2 or 3 things to look out for the second time they see the film. Your films are always dense, with so much in the background.
Well, there's a bunch of, I don't know how many King heads are in the house, but there are quite a few Stephen King references in there. I think the biggest one, there's a good one to freeze frame later, is that when you go into the locker room with all of the other game shows, and they've all got their color-coded jumpsuits. This isn't written into the script, but what happens is Art comes and say, hey, we need 20 surnames for the other contestants. So I thought, okay, actors who've been in Stephen King films, Nicholson, Spacek, Walken, Freeman, Bates, just every single name around the room is all people who've been in Stephen King films, including King himself, because he's in many of the films, including notably Creepshow. And actually, when I got to meet him in Maine a couple of weeks ago, I gifted him the lime green jumpsuit with King on it. So he now owns that costume for a show called Bug Out. There's another crazy one that's in there. This is really deep cut, but it's a good Easter egg. Josh Brolin is not the only Brolin in the movie. Because when he's in William H. Macy's basement, and there's the old movie on the TV, it's like a foreshadowing for the hijack. And you see a guy holding up a plane with a live grenade. That is James Brolin, Josh's dad, in a film called Skyjacked. Now, the crazy thing about that is that was written into the script before Josh Brolin came on board. We needed a hijack scene, and me and Michael Bacall were talking about the airport films. I said, there's this film called Skyjack where a guy holds up a plane with a live grenade. It's James Brolin. So when Josh came on, months later, I at some point I said, your dad's in this as well. So that's another one.
Another little bit of insight base, so we were talking about this. It's just, I think it's valuable. I mean, these are all like sort of diehard film fans of yours, and they know how the sausage is made to a degree. Like the timeline of this, like you have never had this kind of compressed schedule making something this ambitious. I mean, what have you learned about yourself as a filmmaker going through, running the gauntlet, and coming out the other side, making something like The Running Man on the timeline that you had?
I mean, I think it's really, I mean, the pithy answer is I'll sleep when I'm dead. But the real answer is that you can't, I don't think I could have got through, and I'll say this, I won't say like it was rushed or compromised at all, it was like really like a photo finish. But I don't think I could have got through the production or the post-production without people that I'd worked with before. So there's a lot of the crew, with a couple of key exceptions, people that have worked on the previous movies, right back to Shaun of the Dead or Scott Pilgrim or even Space, it's like people that I've worked with before, because that shorthand is like invaluable at every stage. And then also, once you get into post, the post is where the real crunch was, and it's like, listen, these are high-class problems to have, because making movies is the best job in the world, but you know, it's a year of 6 and 7 day weeks and 16-hour days, and lots of people have to make sacrifices to work that hard. So this is me being completely, I could not have done it without a really hard-working crew. And we only really finished the film like a month ago, so it's sort of surreal for you to even be sitting here. It's amazing, and but I'm really, I'm just so proud of what we. I mean, it sets a dangerous precedent. I would like to do this every time out, but it was kind of wild.
You're actually just sleeping in your room right now. This is your dream. You're not done with the movie yet. You have 6 more months to go.
Are you going to wake up? I've been sleeping on the couch at the end. Oh no. Still rendering.
No. The movie is done. It's fantastic. Thank you guys for sharing opening night with Edger Wright, everybody.
Thank you.